Okay, so picture this. You're an archaeologist, millions of years in the future. You're digging, right, going through layers of rock, and suddenly, bam, you hit the strata and it's filled with plastic, weird metals, things you don't recognize.
Whoa.
Would you even think, hey, this is evidence of a civilization?
That's a good question. I mean, would you even think civilization or just some bizarre natural phenomenon? It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It's mind-bending, and that's kind of the whole point of what we're diving into today, the Silurian Hypothesis.
Exactly. This idea that maybe, just maybe, there could have been an industrial civilization on Earth way before humans.
Long before us.
Yeah.
We're talking serious deep time here.
Deep time is right.
So we're basing this deep dive on an article called, straight up, The Silurian Hypothesis. It's published on New Thread. And I gotta admit, when I first heard about this, I was like, come on, this has got to be science fiction, right?
Right. It sounds like something straight out of a movie.
But then the more I read, I started digging into the science behind it. And honestly, it's surprisingly thought-provoking.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because it forces us to think about, well, how much we don't know about Earth's past. I mean, the planet is billions of years old. Humans, we've only been around for a tiny, tiny fraction of that time.
A blink of an eye, cosmically speaking.
Exactly. So what was happening during those massive stretches of time before humans? Could there have been other intelligent species, rising and falling, leaving behind? Who knows what?
Maybe just the faintest traces? Or maybe nothing at all.
It's a real mystery.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks here. If we're talking about a civilization millions of years old, what's the biggest hurdle to actually finding proof?
The biggest challenge, well, Earth likes to keep things interesting. It's a planet that's constantly changing.
Okay.
Plate tectonics, erosion, volcanoes erupting.
Oh yeah, those will mess things up.
They're like giant forces of nature just erasing the past. I mean, it's hard enough to find like intact dinosaur fossils, let alone something hundreds of millions of years older.
So you're saying even if there were like cities, monuments, landfills even from this ancient civilization, chances are they're just gone.
Pretty much. Gone, buried, transformed. And even things we consider durable today, like plastics, some metals, they wouldn't necessarily last millions of years intact.
Right. They degrade, become part of the rock, who knows what.
Exactly. It would be incredibly hard to even recognize them.
So if we can't count on finding those obvious artifacts, like a rusted-out spaceship or something, how do we even start to look for evidence? Where do we even begin?
That's where it gets really cool. The scientists who are tackling this, they're thinking we need to shift focus. Instead of big, obvious stuff, we gotta look for the subtle stuff. Chemical traces, what they call technosignatures.
Technosignatures. Okay, now we're talking. Sounds kind of sci-fi to me. What are we talking about here?
A technosignature is basically any indicator, anything we can measure, that could only have been produced by, well, technology.
Okay, I'm following.
And it can be a lot of things. Like, imagine you're analyzing layers of rock, and suddenly there's this spike in certain carbon isotopes.
Hold on. Back up for a sec. What are carbon isotopes, and why would they be a clue?
So carbon isotopes, they're different forms of carbon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same number of protons, but different neutrons, making them a bit heavier or lighter. The key here is when we burn fossil fuels, coal, oil, we release carbon with a very specific isotope ratio.
Okay.
If we find that same ratio in ancient rock, that could be a sign. Like a fingerprint. Someone was burning a lot of stuff a long, long time ago.
So it's like a chemical smoke signal that says, hey, something unnatural went down here, something only a tech-savvy civilization could do.
You got it. And it's not just carbon. There are other potential technosignatures, some rare earth elements.
Yep.
Those are crucial for our tech today.
Right.
If we find unusually high concentrations of those elements in ancient sediment, that could be another clue, especially if it's not a natural pattern.
So we're basically playing detective here, looking for these subtle clues, these anomalies that whisper about a civilization from deep time.
Exactly. And those whispers might be super faint, hard to decipher.
Yeah.
But if we can piece them together, the implications would be, well,
revolutionary.
It really makes you think, what else might be hidden in the rocks just waiting for us to figure out how to read them? But here's a thought. Even if Earth is like constantly erasing its history, there are other places that might be better at holding on to the past, right?
You're thinking of the moon, Mars. You're on the right track. Those places could be much clearer windows into deep time. They really could. And what's really cool is this search for evidence on the moon and Mars, it's not just about these, hypothetical pre-human civilizations.
Right.
It could actually change how we understand the entire early solar system.
Okay, now you've got my attention. How so?
Well, think about it. If we find any remnants of old tech, even something as simple as, like, a piece of metal that's clearly been worked, not natural.
It would mean that life, and not just like microbes, but life that could use tools, maybe even to build a civilization.
Yeah.
It would mean all that started way earlier than we think.
So it's not just about who might have been out there, but when. That totally changes the timeline for, well, everything. Life in our solar system, how it all began.
Exactly. Life, intelligent life, it might not be as rare as we think, or as recent. That's a pretty big deal, don't you think?
Huge. It really makes you feel kind of small, thinking about our place in the universe and all that. But let's get back to those specific spots for a minute. You mentioned the moon being like a time capsule.
Yeah.
What kind of evidence realistically could we find there if this pre-human civilization actually existed?
Well, the moon, with no air, no real erosion to speak of, even fragile things could last for, forever. We could be talking about pieces of structures, maybe foundations, or some weird arrangement of materials that just screams, this isn't natural. Tools, too, if they were made of the right stuff, could last practically forever. Even footprints, fossilized, just sitting there in the dust.
A pre-human footprint on the moon, that's wild. But what about stuff buried underground? How would we even find that?
That's where things get tricky. We need some serious tech, like ground-penetrating radar. Look for anomalies beneath the surface.
So like X-ray vision for the moon, looking for buried cities or whatever.
Exactly. And future lunar missions, who knows what they'll be able to do. There's so much potential there.
It's like the moon's holding its breath, waiting for us to unlock its secrets. Now, Mars, you mentioned it too. Evidence could stick around longer there than on Earth. Are there any particular places on Mars that scientists are, really interested in checking out?
Oh, absolutely. Gale Crater, Jezero Crater, both are thought to have been ancient lakes billions of years ago.
So like the Martian version of finding fossils in a swamp.
Pretty much. And guess what? We've already sent rovers to those spots.
No way.
Curiosity and Perseverance, they're exploring those craters right now, gathering data, looking for signs of past life, and who knows, maybe even hints of a pre-human civilization.
That's amazing. We've got robots out there right now poking around ancient Martian lake beds. That's just, wow.
It occurs to me that even if we don't find, undeniable proof of a pre-human civilization, this whole Silurian hypothesis has made scientists think differently about what to look for here on Earth, I mean.
You're right. It's like we've got a new set of glasses, a new way of looking at Earth history, and it's already leading to some cool discoveries.
Really? Like what?
Well, there are some geological features, weird stuff that was always thought to be natural. Now researchers are taking a second look, asking, could this be from some ancient industrial process? Could these strange chemical ratios be a sign of, long gone tech?
So we're basically going back through old evidence with fresh eyes. See if we missed anything the first time around.
Exactly. And this new way of looking at things, it's giving us a better understanding of Earth's past, even if it doesn't directly prove there was a civilization before us. So the Silurian hypothesis, it's like a catalyst, pushing us to ask bigger questions, be more open-minded about what's possible. But I gotta ask, what if we do find that undeniable proof, no doubt about it, a pre-human civilization existed? How would that change how we see ourselves? Our place in the universe?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? A discovery like that, it would have massive implications. Everything from evolution to the nature of intelligence itself. It would be we'd have to rewrite history.
A total paradigm shift, the shock, the wonder, the existential dread. It would be mind-blowing, that's for sure.
It really would. To think we weren't the first, maybe not even the most advanced. It makes you realize how vast time is and how civilizations might rise and fall in ways we can't even imagine.
It's exciting and terrifying all at the same time. And I think that's why this whole Silurian hypothesis is so fascinating. It makes us think about those big questions, the mysteries of Earth's past. Even on other planets, it challenges everything we think we know.
You said it. The Silurian hypothesis, even if we never find that smoking gun, it reminds us that we're just a small part of something much bigger. A story that's still unfolding. And who knows what incredible discoveries are still out there just waiting for us.
It's funny. As we've been talking about pre-human civilizations and these technosignatures, it makes me think about what we're doing to the planet right now with, climate change and all that. It's like the Silurian hypothesis, it kind of flips the script, right? Makes us imagine ourselves as those future archaeologists or even like alien visitors trying to make sense of the stuff we leave behind.
It's true. Think about it. Millions of years from now, What's going to be left of our cities, our industries,
Yeah.
all that fossil fuel we're burning? Will there be some layer in the rock that just shouts, human civilization was here?
And if there is, what will it say about us?
Yeah. It's a pretty sobering thought. Everything we're doing right now, it's creating a technosignature, one that could be stuck in the earth for millions of years. It makes you think about how future whatever, will interpret it.
It's like we're holding up a mirror to ourselves, trying to imagine how we'd interpret evidence of a pre-human civilization. It makes us face the consequences of our own actions, the long-term consequences, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just physical stuff either. All the information we're creating, digital data, radio waves, all those signals flying out into space.
Right.
If there's anyone out there listening, they might be picking up on that stuff long after we're gone.
It's a wild thought. So the Silurian hypothesis, it's not just about the past. It's about the future, too, isn't it? Like, what kind of legacy are we creating? What story do we want our technosignature to tell?
That's a really good question. And it's one that I think, as a species, we need to be thinking about a lot more. This whole idea, it reminds us that we're not just, passing through Earth. We're part of this massive web of life stretching across huge amounts of time.
It's humbling, and also kind of empowering. It means we have a responsibility to be better caretakers of the planet, not just for us, but for everything that might come after, human or something totally different.
It makes you wonder, what if the biggest impact of this Silurian hypothesis isn't about actually finding a past civilization? What if it's about inspiring us to be a better civilization?
Right. What if searching for other civilizations helps us understand our own place in the universe and the importance of, keeping this planet livable? That'd be something.
It really would.
Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into the Silurian hypothesis. We've covered a lot of ground, from ancient Earth to other planets, and some pretty big philosophical questions along the way.
It's been quite a journey. And as we finish up here, I want to encourage everyone listening, keep thinking about this. Let it spark your curiosity, challenge your assumptions, and maybe even inspire you to, learn more about the universe and all its mysteries.
Exactly. So to all our listeners out there, next time you look up at the stars or even just down at the ground beneath your feet, remember, Earth has a long, long history, full of secrets waiting to be discovered. And who knows, maybe there are whispers of other civilizations out there hidden in time and space, just waiting for us to find them.